for Energy and Sustainability, and here we are at the 26th Annual La Jolla Energy Conference. And welcoming back an old friend, Decio Oddone. Decio, welcome back to La Jolla.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to be here with you guys.
And Decio is a former board member of the Institute of the Americas and now joins us on this occasion as the Director General of the National Petroleum Agency of Brazil, ANP. And Decio took up that post earlier this year with a pretty broad mandate to reset the oil and gas outlook for Brazil. Help us understand a little bit, Decio, what the challenges that when you took over the ANP, and when we talk about the energy reset, and we've had a couple of panels, and you gave a keynote address last night. Help us understand exactly what some of these elements entail in terms of the overhaul.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here with you. We are going through a very exciting moment in Brazil. For the first time ever in our industry, we are facing major transformations in the three different sectors of the oil and gas business. We have big transformation in the upstream sector with the resuming of the bidding rounds. Now we have a bidding round calendar for the next 3 years. And with the new positioning of Petrobras and Petrobras divestment plans in the upstream, downstream, and natural gas business, that creates an opportunity for the first time in Brazil, I would say ever, for new companies to come to explore and to produce oil in Brazil, but also to be part of our natural gas and downstream business. So
that's a good point.
We are developing a very competitive and diverse industry that will be in place in the next few years. An industry in which Petrobras will always have a relevant participation, but not the dominant situation that they have to now. So we'll see new players in the upstream, new players in the natural gas business, and new players in the downstream sector as well. And we are working that these transformations occurs benefiting the Brazilian society and the Brazilian consumer. That's our goal.
So you bring up several very interesting points, because I think a lot of the emphasis when we talk about some of the changes in ANP and what you're helping to do in terms of fiscal terms, in terms of regulatory terms, tend to focus on the oil sector, but you make some important comments about natural gas. So let's talk a little bit about that. But first, because I think this is related, is the role of Petrobras in this new energy horizon in Brazil. One of the key changes in the last several months has been the issue of the role of Petrobras in the pre-salt. So the role of Petrobras, Brazil's national oil company, as the operator of all the pre-salt assets. Now that's been changed, which has been mentioned a lot already in the conference as a very positive development. Help us understand that a little bit, but then also talk a little bit about the role of Petrobras in this new natural gas outlook.
Well, put it in perspective, Brazil opened up the exploration and production sector in the 90s. We attracted more than 100 companies to explore in Brazil. That was a very successful move. So successful that we discovered very large reserves in the offshore coast of São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro states. We call that the pre-salt polygon. And then the government at that time decided to change the regulation and apply a new type of contract for that region, a production sharing contract, in which Petrobras was obliged to be the sole operator with a minimum of 30% interest. Now, last year, the government has just changed this obligation, and now Petrobras is no longer obliged to be the operator in those areas. And we are opening this possibility for other companies. So this has brought enormous attraction for
I would assume the majors. The majors now
are very interested in this very large and prolific potential reserves. So we now have a few bid rounds in the next few years in front of us, and we expect to attract not only Petrobras but also other very important operators to share the risk with us and to profit with us in the pre-salt. You asked me about the natural gas business. Natural gas business was relevant in Brazil after the Bolivia-Brazil pipeline construction in the end of the 90s. But since then, Petrobras was in control of the business. They own the pipelines, they had the contracts with the local distribution companies, they were responsible for the gas supply, for the imports from Bolivia, LNG imports. And recently Petrobras decided to change their position in this market. It's Petrobras' decision, approved by their board of directors. There is no interference from the agency in those decisions, but those decisions, they affect the way the market is organized in Brazil.
Of course.
And then Petrobras started it's the divestment plan. They sold part of the participation they had in some of the local distribution companies in several Brazilian states. They also sold part of their infrastructure, I mean the pipeline network in the southeast part of the country. And they are announcing they will no longer be responsible for the supply of natural gas for the local distribution companies. They are opening up space for other companies to deal with Bolivia and also to participate in LNG import. So we are seeing a major transformation in natural gas business in Brazil. We have enormous windows of opportunity by 2019, 2020 because Bolivia-Brazil pipeline gas supply agreement expires.
It expires what year, 2019?
2019, but maybe it can be extended to 2020 because they have some makeup gas to transport. We have also some of Petrobras contracts with the distribution companies expired in 2019 as well. We have new opportunities for LNG imports. So it's a very dynamic moment in the natural gas business now, and we expect to have a much more diverse and competitive market in the years to come.
I think that's a really significant point you make because, again, we talk a lot about and the pre-salt gets so much attention, and rightfully so, especially with the level of production that you've seen. But the changes that you just talked about with the natural gas market in Brazil could open up an enormous amount of investment and perhaps be something that also is, like you said, transformational. So let's talk a little bit about the auctions. You mentioned some of those, and you laid out the auction process in your address last night, and also the approval of the 2018-2019 auctions. So talk a little bit about the auctions, but I want you to specifically speak to the competition question. And we already heard this morning, we're still in a fairly low oil price environment. We're in a capital constrained environment. So there's still a huge competition for capital. So talk about your bid rounds, but particularly in this constrained capital environment.
Well, we are very aware of the situation in the oil market. Myself and some other people in the government now, we have an industry background, so we understand the industry concerns. But we are fully confident that we have a lot to offer. We focus, industry focus in the pre-salt. Pre-salt is amazing. Billions of barrels, 30,000 barrels a day production per well. It's a cash cow. Very low lifting costs. Petrobras reports less than $8 currently lifting costs in the pre-salt. But Brazil is a large country.
Yeah.
We have a series of opportunities across our bases. I like to say that we are in the 21st century and we still have basins in Brazil in which we have never drilled a single well.
Yeah, you said that last night.
That's amazing.
It's very interesting.
We have some virgin, I call them basins. So we have opportunities for every and all types of exploration and production companies. Very large sedimentary basin area. We drill in our whole history, and we have the size of the continental U.S. We have drilled only 30,000 wells, and U.S. has drilled millions of wells.
Yeah.
So we have enormous space for increasing exploration activity, and we are attracting for these next bid rounds not only the large majors which are interested in the pre-salt, but also small and mid-sized companies that can help us in knowing better our geology.
Well, and you said something also last night that you expect to be able to drill by the end of your term, I think you said 2020, at least one exploratory well, or at least one well in each of the in each of the basins in Brazil, right? So that's an ambitious goal on top of the, how many auctions in the next 3 years?
We
Or
have
2
10
years?
auctions in the next 3 years.
10.
10, yes. Well, it's correct. We want to offer for exploration areas in all these virgin basins, as I mentioned, and I hope that we will have wells drilled in these basins. If not by 2020, but at least by 2022, when the exploration phase of the contracts expire.
Well, we'll invite you back. Well, we invite you back every year. Decio Oddone is always he's always here, La Jolla, as a board member, and now it's a pleasure. It's funny. He said last night that he never expected to speak at the La Jolla conference as a government official, but as they say, stranger things can happen. So. But I think it's a great moment for you to be at the ANP with your industry background, as you mentioned just a minute ago. So we'll invite Decio back every year, but especially in May of 2020, before the end of his term, and we'll get the final analysis on his efforts to boost drilling and exploration in Brazil. Decio, thanks for joining us. Best wishes. I know it's going to be a successful 2 and 3 years, and despite all the political turmoil, Brazil is full speed ahead on the energy reset.
Thank you for the opportunity, and I take the challenge. If my health and allows, I will be here in 2020.
Deal.
Yeah. Thank you.